So thank you everybody for joining us for this fun Friday chilling session where we talk about the fall of democracy, but in a fun way that doesn't make you depressed. That's our goal. My name is Liz, and I'm joined by the incredible Zerlina Maxwell, who I have known for like 10 years,
I
over
know.
10 years.
I know.
When I moved to New York and was like just a little baby journalist, I saw you at a conference, like a women's conference, and I went up to you and I was like, I was just meeting Oprah. Like I just was like, she's real. Zelina would go on Fox News and like give it to them straight. And she had an amazing show on MSNBC. She's the queen of manifestation. I remember going to like a workshop you did with the Women's Media Center, Action Media Center. And it was like 5 years before you got your MSNBC show, and you were like, I'm going to get a show. I put
Mhm.
all my lists, all my goals. Like you had such an incredible process and way of doing things. And I often think about just how powerful, like I mean, you're powerful in so many respects, but I think like there's so much to your mindset. And you have you have an incredibly important voice, on all things politics. And, we thought we would have a fun Friday hang
Yes.
and talk about the importance of bullying bullies, and sort of what's going on. I mean, what are your thoughts? And people, tell us where you're joining us from, because no one is going to be joining us from a better location than Zerlina, who is. Tell us where you're at right now. Tell
It's
us
funny
what
that
your view is.
well, hi everybody. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for joining on Friday. And I have to say, like, I am the queen of manifestation because I'm living in a manifestation at the moment.
Mhm.
Where I am right now in Sicily, I live in Palermo, Sicily, is a manifestation that I had. It is a dream that I had. It was on my vision board, including like a picture. And before I knew exactly where I was going to live, I remember going back and looking at my vision board, and there was a photo of a mountain and then also the sea. And then it wasn't until later when I decided where I wanted to live that I realized the mountain is across the street from my balcony.
Whoa.
That's how the manifestation thing kind of
Okay, I need
works.
more
Yeah.
information before we get into bullying bullies, and the reasons we all want a lobotomy at the end of the week. What specifically is your manifestation practice? Like for people who are like, this is woo woo, like because you're the smartest person I know. Like you're not like a hippie, and hippies are smart. Like, but
Yeah.
you have. So what is your like go to thing that you do? Is it like having images? Is it journaling? Like for
So
people who are wondering.
journaling, not as much as I would like. I mean, I have a lot of journals and then I don't write in them. Okay. So I like, unless I'm really upset about something, like I'm not somebody who gets up every day with my coffee and like sits with my journal. I want to be that person. That person looks like they have
Too.
a great life, but I'm
Totally.
not that person. I'm more the person who, and I've gotten into this in the last year and a half because I started working with an amazing life coach named Lauren Handelsander, who wrote a great book. Maybe It's You. I don't know if you guys have heard of
Ooh.
it, but highly recommend that book. But she taught me about visualizing. She's not the only one who talks about this. This is
Right.
really Neville Goddard. But you have to visualize the thing that you want as if it's happening and then feel the emotions that you would feel when it's happening. So before I got my visa, I would sit and I would visualize myself being here, sitting across the street from my house, watching, the sea and the birds and like being here. That's what I would visualize. And I'm not saying that it happens immediately because that's the thing about it,
Yeah.
is that it does not happen right away.
Yeah.
There's definitely days where you're like, this is not working at all. This
Yeah.
is woo woo. Why am I even believing in this? But
Yeah.
then as I sit here now and I think back to all those days when I would literally sit in a guided meditation and like visualize myself here, I'm like, okay, I think it did work.
It worked. Yeah,
Yeah.
it worked. It worked, and like it worked at the right time. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing too. Is if you believe in any kind of universe, or if you're religious, like it's just there is divine timing,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
that's not going to be your timing necessarily. And visualization is something that athletes do. Like it's not,
Yes.
and it makes them better. Like there's just
Yes.
studies that show it. So it's one of those things like astrology, or, things that women kind of tend to be in too, and then that gets sort of discredited. But
Mhm.
what's at the basis of yeah, manifest, like you could just call it visualization, and
Yeah.
visualization, like you could do it on a really sometimes when I'm in a really bad mood and I wake up, I visualize myself in my day having a good day. Like
Oh
I'll like
yeah.
visualize myself just working and feeling like very at peace and like having fun with it, and it actually works. Like it just
No,
like
this is
yeah,
true.
yeah.
My coach calls it design your day. So sometimes she'll have me write out my day
Oh wow.
that hasn't happened yet. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a great show. I'm gonna do this interview with this person. It's gonna be amazing. Then I'm gonna go have an amazing workout. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
have a really incredible, nutritious meal. I'm gonna meet somebody fun when I'm outside. Like she literally will ask you to like write out stuff that hasn't happened yet. And it's just weird how a lot of times at the end of the day when you go back to it,
Mm,
it's how you predicted it. I don't know why this works. I have no idea. I mean, there are people smarter than me, quantum scientists and, people who really, really are immersed in this stuff that
mhm.
they know the why. I just feel better doing it. I
Yeah.
feel better doing it because it makes me feel like I have control over something, even
Mm,
though I don't have control over everything, especially right now.
I
Because
know.
if I didn't do some of these things that grounded me,
Yeah.
a little bit, I would lose it a little because
Yeah.
we're both like in the worst news all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And Robert says you can't make you can't control what happens, but you can control how you react to it. And that's
That's
exactly
true.
right. Like you are going, and also your mind is already creating a story, by
That's
the
true.
way, right? Like so
Yes,
you might as well create a positive one. And I agree. Like I think that, I mean, this might be controversial, but one of my like health hygiene, like it's not even mental health at this point. Like a way to stay healthy in the apocalypse has been to not read the news in the morning. Like there's something about like the assault on my body. And then for me anyways, I would just be in a state of stress kind of the entire day,
the
as
whole day.
opposed to, and again, it's not making me more astute or more able to, sort of attack the problem at hand. It just makes me more miserable and stressed.
Yeah.
And again, that makes me less rational and less, sort of even keeled or balanced enough to sort of be ready to fight.
I can
So
relate to that because
yeah.
I host a morning show. So in
Yes,
the
wait, we didn't even
US,
talk. Right, you have
yeah,
a Sirius XM show. How can
yes.
people watch it?
So it's not video unless I do video, but it's on SiriusXM every single morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. You can listen in the app on demand anytime. And I post clips on my social medias, which are all at Serlina Maxwell. But in the US, on the East Coast, I used to have to wake up at 5 in the morning to do this morning show that I still do. And now here in Europe, I'm 6 hours ahead. So I don't have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's just because you don't wanna wake up." And I'm like, "No, that's not it." Although, obviously, this is better. It was waking up in the dark and having to read about dystopia
Yeah.
that really actually would have broken me. I wouldn't be able to continue to do it if I was doing it that way. And here, I'm able to intentionally consume news in a way that I couldn't when it
Mm,
was, get up and go right away. Um so here I get up, I meditate, I work out, I'm gonna have a good breakfast, I'm gonna hydrate, I'm gonna have a little bit more caffeine. And I have a time that I start reading the news, right? I don't
yeah.
start reading the news until 11 a.m. Right. So I'm like doing other things and I start reading the news at 11 a.m. every day. And it's like I really have to like keep to that because some days I'm like, okay, it's time. And I'm like,
Don't want
okay, like here we go.
to.
Because it's really so much and
Yeah.
it's so hard, I think, also because I have a level of clarity being far away that I feel like people don't have the right amount of urgency.
Mhm.
Because from here I'm like, okay, this is fascism and it's happening really fast. And when I talk to people here that have lived through it, they see it, they know it. The people here that have parents and grandparents or learned about it in school, they see it very clearly. I'm not just talking about where I am, but also this is a very diverse international city, and so I talk to people from all over the world all the time, and they see it
Yeah.
clearly. And so I wish folks in the US did, but I do feel like when I'm working, I'm working. When I'm not working, I'm not working.
Yeah.
I don't even look at it. With if I'm not working, I don't look.
Good for
That's the
you.
new me.
I love it. And you can always have a new you, by the way. You can always
Yes.
change things. And Amanda was asking what the name of the book was. It's Maybe It's You. Is that the book?
Maybe it's you.
Okay. 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 So let's dig into it. As we've had our little self-care moment. Let's talk about fascism. So Gavin Newsom this week, I think, has given us an interesting lesson. And that was why I titled our live about just because I think for a long time, even I remember posting this video a couple of years. I mean, this was like 2017 or
Mhm.
2018. And it was something about like I'm on my hot girl shit. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that. It was like I'm on my hot girl shit. And I wrote like cyberbullying Republicans. And I got so many messages from people who are like, that's really negative, and like, no one should be, we shouldn't be doing to them what we're doing to, what they're doing to us. And I'm curious what you think about, and people, and please sound off in the comments. Like, what are your thoughts about the way that Gavin Newsom has sort of, I mean, whatever. It's not a total shift from sort of what he was doing before, but I think in the last week, there's been some social media interns. There's been some
Yes.
people who need
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
raises. He's been using all caps and sort of emulating the way that the president sounds completely unhinged, and is, telling Bed Bath and Beyond to get out. And he's just very much employing the kind of tactics
Yeah.
that the president is, typically known for. And it's actually gotten like a big response out of the right. So I'm curious. But then there's people on the left who are like, well, wait, let's talk about the left later. What do you think about what he's been doing?
Yeah, the people on the left, you saw me roll my eyes. I'm like, ugh,
I know.
whatever. Like
What?
the people on the left, they're like, he shouldn't do it that way. I'm like, okay, go win an election. Then
Yeah.
you can tell me how to do it. Okay. No, I'm so serious. I'm so serious. I'm really serious at this point about that. Like, please go show me your results. Show me how to win an election against Donald Trump
Yeah.
right now, and
Yeah.
Republicans right now,
Yeah.
and show me what winning looks like, and then you can give me advice on what Gavin Newsom should be doing.
Mhm.
But I love it, and the reason why is because he is bullying. To your point, he's bullying the bully, right?
Yeah.
There is a difference between what he's doing and what Trump is doing. Trump bullies people that are beneath him
Yeah.
lower. He punches down. What Gavin
Mhm.
Newsom is doing is punching up at the
Right.
president in the style that the president has been utilizing for the past 10
Mhm.
years. And it's only now that the media is like, wow, that sounds kind of crazy. And I'm like, well, yeah, the president has been, posting on social media like this for 10 years. And you guys are just now noticing that it looks a little crazy when you're writing in all caps all the time. And you're writing, thank you for your attention to this matter at the end of a social media post. Um, but I feel like I wonder why it took so long for Democrats to realize that they
Mhm.
needed to just try to sound like Trump, even though we know that they're way smarter. They can talk policy, they can talk with
Mhm.
details. Because going back to 2016, I remember there was a moment where somebody had the idea that like he doesn't make any sense. And the media never calls out the fact that he does not make any sense. And so there was a moment where we were like, maybe Hillary Clinton should do a press conference where she's answering questions like Trump would, like, oh, it's going to be the best plan.
Mhm.
And then just start, like, no, give no
That's it.
detail,
Yeah.
right? And see how, if the press noticed that she was talking like Trump. And
Yeah.
obviously, Democrats are more risk averse, I think, in terms of what they have candidates do in
Mhm.
campaigns. And so that was an idea that like came and everybody loved it, but then it never happened. So when I saw Gavin Newsom doing this, I'm like, is somebody on his staff somebody that was in that room and like thought of the
Wow.
idea many, many years ago? But also, I think about the fact that now he's able to punch back,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and also make serious points. I mean, he's doing it in the style of Trump, and it is a little bit of like having fun with it, but he's making some serious points.
Mm.
Right now, what's happening, we better be writing in all caps if we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about rising fascism and the dismantling of American democracy and the fact that there are federal troops in the streets and they're trying to rig elections a year early. And they're trying to not just rig elections for partisan reasons, but for racist reasons. Because the reason why they're doing this is because they want white voters to count more than voters of color. And that's not
Mhm.
just true in Texas, that's true everywhere because white voters will be a minority by 2045. And so
Mhm.
they're like getting a jump on it. And so I'm glad that somebody at least realizes that this is an emergency.
Well, I totally agree. I think that I've had the same sort of, or I don't know if other people relate. I feel like I've written about this, but it's one thing to go through fascism and
Yeah.
it obviously it's been a slow build, but in the last few months it's been ramped up extremely quickly, and that's like sort of traumatic enough. But then to see the people who could do something about it do the least, and do less in certain respects. And again, it's not to paint Democrats in a broad brush, but I think we didn't expect the response to be that diluted, and for many of the people in charge to feel like us, to be like, wait, shouldn't, like, I don't know what to do, but like, shouldn't you know what to do? Like, shouldn't you at this point know what's going on? And I think to your point, we've underestimated how powerful Trump is. I mean, it's really sad to say, but he's like the most powerful political figure of the last like decade. And to your point, try and go win an election against him, right? Like, I think that it's very easy to be um, just like, sort of screaming from the cheap seats and to be finding things that were wrong. Like, actually, I wanted to touch on something that Fritz wrote, where he said, the Fritz, I like the bullying, but I still don't trust Newsom. Like, I've been seeing a lot of people on the left sort of attacking, and again, we love to do this on the left. The right, I've said this many times, but the right disagree in private and then they agree in public, and we agree in private and then we disagree in public. So
Yeah.
it's very fashionable to find people problematic on the left and like be like, oh, this person that you all like actually, like, this person's really bad. So obviously there are reasons, there are things that we, no, politicians aren't perfect, and politicians are politicians, and they're people. So we're not going to agree with everything that a person has ever done. But
Mhm.
what do you think about some of the reluctance to get behind someone like Newsom?
I think people misunderstand the moment. I
Yeah.
think that they're waiting for this perfect leader to come along that is going to be everything that they want and somebody who's going to fight back against Donald Trump. And that person is not going to be the same person. I just don't think and also it's not going to be one person. It's not going to
Mm,
be one person. It's going to be a collection of different people doing different things at different moments. And I'm not saying that people don't have valid critiques because I think that critiquing politicians is a healthy thing to do. But like you said, I think that we should probably do that in private, so that we at least look like a unified front, and that people that are on the fence, because there's a lot of young people that are watching politics for the first time and they're like, oh, this looks like a mess. Republicans are the same as Democrats. Everybody's just fighting and they don't understand the stakes
mm,
because they're young and they're like, "Oh, yeah, an election will happen in 2 years when I turn 18, just like every other, 18-year-old gets to vote." And we're like, "No, no, no, this is actually a different moment."
yeah.
But also I think that, for folks who are like, "Well, I don't trust him," like, what I understand where that's coming from because of some of the recent comments that he made and some of the conversations that he had with some of the right-wing folks on the podcast. But I mean, trust is like it's a word people throw out,
Mm,
but we don't necessarily define it ever.
yeah.
Whether it be of politicians, of leaders, of our boss, of our mother, of our husband, like, we don't really define that. It sounds like it means a lot,
Mm,
right? And I think it does, but it kind of doesn't also. It's just
yeah.
sort of like, well, I don't trust them. What do you mean?
Mm,
What do you mean? And then what would it take for you to say, like, okay, I'm going to go vote and support this person so that we don't descend further into fascism, which is going to be very difficult to undo if we're able to do it at all.
yeah.
So I mean, there's no time to wait for the perfect person to come along. We just better hop on board with the people who are stepping up, because really what this moment requires is for people, some of whom we didn't expect, stepping up.
Yeah.
And he's just one of the people at this moment who has done that.
Right, right. Yeah, that's such a good point. And someone was like, um, T was like, I know I've evolved and changed a lot in my life. Why shouldn't our leaders? Right. It's sort of like seeing them as just as fallible and sort of, and, but yeah, I think there's, and I don't know. I think, I mean, maybe this is dicey question and you don't want to get into it, but what do you think about some of their positions when it comes to, LGBTQ issues and particularly,
Yeah.
transgender issues? We've seen not just Gavin Newsom sort of take a moderate, if you want, I don't know, I don't want to, people are going to say it's the wrong word, but take a different position than sort of the mainstream Democratic Party has taken, I guess. And then Pete Buttigieg, I think recently also, I kind of missed his, I was attempting vacation, so I didn't see the clip, but I think he went on a podcast or was asked about it, maybe on NPR or something like that, and he sort of dodge the question. So, yeah, what do you think about? Do you think that's sort of a on deliberate? Do you think it's worth it to destabilize fascism and get to a place where then we are able to make a better world for LGBTQ people because we don't have fascists in charge?
No, it's like I definitely was not happy when Newsom said those things. I remember
Yeah,
the conversation when it happened. I didn't see the people just click either, I don't think. Maybe it was in my feed, but I probably didn't
yeah,
click on it because I was just upset.
right.
I don't you're right. Like I don't love it when politicians do. I don't like it when Democrats try to tack to the middle and try to be
Yeah.
pretend Republicans. I do not like that. It does not ever work. It has never ever worked. It doesn't work. Not since like 1992
Mm,
and 1996 has it worked. And it's not going to work now.
yeah.
You have to understand the electorate is very different than the one back then. You're not going to win back people by going to the middle. That's
Hmm.
not the way to do it, in my opinion. This
Yeah.
is, like again, like I'm like go win an election. Like I haven't been like in the rooms on 25 successful presidential campaigns either. I'm just looking at this as somebody who's been steeped in this. I'm obsessed with it. I've always been obsessed with it,
Hmm.
and I'm also looking at demographic shifts, what messaging and polling, what messaging changes polling, and who is registering to vote. Now, Democrats do have a problem there. They would be a lot better served with focusing on voter registration
Hmm.
on a mass scale versus moderating their message around some of these issues. I do not think it's ever going to work
Mm.
to fail to stand up for
Yeah.
communities that are under assault from the fascists,
Yeah.
right? So if communities are being targeted through policies and rhetoric that is harmful, and then you are going to the middle and you're sort of giving permission to some of that, I think that's morally questionable. Not even just
Yeah.
like bad
Right.
politically. I think that that's like I don't like that at all.
Yeah. 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 It's and if you want to have the most, I mean, I don't know if this is like if you want to have the most compassionate like view on it, you're like I think especially Pete Buttigieg, he doesn't come across as someone who actually would believe. And again, if anyone has his actual quote from that appearance, please put it below. I should have pulled it up, but I didn't know it would come up. But yeah, like I don't even think he necessarily believes it, but I
Mm,
think it's a calculation in these desperate times, and so I have, I guess, some empathy for, because I'm assuming it's coming from a good place, but yeah, I'm totally with you. I think it's also been overblown, right? Like um maybe Joe Rogan is annoyed by the conversation around LGBTQ issues, but I don't think that's most Americans. Like, I don't think most
no,
Americans were thinking about that when they like, went to the ballot box.
no,
And so, yeah, I think we're sort of tending to a demographic of like like almost like the way that they sort of criticize, the left of like, oh, these like Hollywood elites and like you're just catering to them. Like, I feel like that's catering to the podcast bros. Like,
yeah,
I think most people don't care about what trans kids do at all. Like,
right,
and in fact, don't want, to support the kinds of policies on the right that just are so extreme,
right.
in sort of discriminating against them. So, okay, so yeah, what do you think is the solution to what are we gonna do?
I
What
have no idea.
I mean, where do you so Gavin Newsom. Oh, well, let's talk a little bit about what happened. So not only is he coming in with a very different sort of communication style, but also he passed this redistricting, I guess, plan, and there's going to be a special election
Yeah.
in California. If there's anyone who is living in California, I think it's September 14th. It's like soon. So that'll be a really important election to show up for. You're definitely going to hear me talk about it. And essentially, well, do you want to talk to us about sort of what the goal is in terms of balancing out the racist map in Texas, where I think it's like, yeah, a Latino person in Texas has a third of the power.
Yeah.
It is worth one third of a vote of a white person, and same for African Americans. So yeah, what's going on in California? Why is it exciting? Because I feel like there's
Yeah.
some hope here, right? Like,
Well, there's hope, but it's going to be short lived. This is why voter
yeah,
registration is so important.
right.
So they got the 5 seats in Texas, right? They redrew the maps. They're rigging it in Texas. So California's like, okay, bet we're going to do that here. So they created basically 5 new Democratic seats in Texas. Okay, 5 for 5. That feels like very fair.
Mm.
But we're not stopping there because we're still so Indiana, Missouri, and Ohio are also looking at their maps. New York and Illinois are looking at their maps. And I'm not like New York might even not even be able to be done until like 2028. So it's not even going to matter for the upcoming midterms.
Yeah,
But I think what it's showing is that Democrats are willing to not be like, that's not fair.
no,
And they're just like, all right, it's not fair. We see that it's not fair, but we're not going to just complain about it. We're going to do what we can so that we can be successful in trying to rein in this authoritarian administration. And the only way to
Mhm.
do that is by taking back the majorities somewhere in the Congress, right? The Senate or the House, like somewhere in the Congress. Like they need some power in the Congress. Um, I think it's really important that California is doing this because it. I'm for so long and, like, Democrats do this all the time. They're like, we're, like, on principle, we're against super PACs. So instead of our billionaires giving us money for our super PACs to do good things, we're not gonna have any. We're just gonna let the right have all their billionaires give, you know, unlimited money, and we're gonna stand here and complain about the moral wrong that are super like and I get it. Like we don't want the system to be like this. We would prefer that we did not have an authoritarian administration. We would prefer that they did not try and succeed in redrawing maps that dilute the power of voters of color, which are the growing demographics in the state of Texas. I don't live on that planet. One of the things that Lauren Handel-Zander, my life coach, says to me all the time, Jolena, you have to stop complaining about the world not being the way that you wish it was. It is
Mhm.
not that way. And you spend a lot of time being like frustrated with why it's not
Uh,
better. um, and so I think in this moment, it's like, how can we talk about this to try to push it in the right direction to make it better? But it's not. Right now, it's not better. It's
yeah,
horrible.
yeah.
Like there's no such thing as they're not following the rules when we're up against an authoritarian wannabe authoritarians. Like
Mhm.
that's not how this is going to work. So I think it's a great thing that Democrats are like, look, they did what they did. We can complain about it all day. We're going to take them to court, which is great, but sort of after the fact. So that's never been the right answer. Oh yeah, we're going to take them to court. And then what they did stands all the whole time you're challenging it, and then you still might lose. Like that's not the right thing. So
Yeah.
I like that California was proactive about it.
Mm.
And voters still get to decide because again, in these democratic states, the process of course is more complicated because we like nonpartisan, independent commissions that make maps and that's ideal, but we're
Right.
not living in ideal
Right.
times.
Right. And I think it was one of the Matus Touch brothers who was on CNN maybe with yeah, because some of the like sort of more mainstream Democratic, I guess, establishment media figures have been like, oh, this is stupid and this is it's not right. And this guy was just like, there's a social contract and like
Right.
both sides have to, in order for there to be a social contract and norms, both sides have to agree to it, or and if one side is not doing that, then you can't consent to that social contract. You have to work outside of it. And so yeah, I'm love this. Like I've been dying for Democrats to play dirty. I think especially in the last 10 years, but even before that, I mean, it's always been like this, and maybe there's a point I know you're like a history buff, but it just does seem like Democrats have always just been the nice ones, and the ones to be like the bigger person and, the empathetic one and the one that believes that the other one will change if they, and at a certain point, it's almost, I don't know. It's just you sound nuts, and you're hurting not only sort of other people, but you're hurting yourself. I don't know. It seems very like codependent narcissist like
Yeah.
relationship or like addict and codependent. And yeah, I just think the two, you mentioned this earlier. The game is different. We're not living in the world we lived in 10 years ago,
No.
and even 5 years ago, and even I would say 4 months ago. I mean,
Yeah.
it really things are totally different. My dad has said that to me a few times, with just the way that my life has been affected by my immigration status, which was not something I thought, really had to think about, until the last few months. And so, yeah, it's hard to adjust to that reality, but I think the people who are able to do it are the ones that'll get us through it, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that kind of what Gavin Newsom is sort of doing? And there was her name is escaping me, a congresswoman in Texas who stayed basically stayed in her office, right? Or they kind
Nicole
of
Collier.
Nicole, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you want to talk about her?
Well, the thing is that I talked to so many of the state reps. So I talked to so many of the state reps on my radio show for
Yeah,
SiriusXM, and this is when they first left the state. And when I learned they were going back, I was disappointed. Although I understand that because I was reading all the stories about them. They're people that
yeah.
were caregivers. They have kids. They're separated from their
They're not getting
families. They're
paid. Yeah,
they're not getting paid.
yeah,
They're fined. They're not able to do their work, their regular jobs, because being a legislator in Texas is a part
yeah,
time job.
yeah.
Their families were being threatened. They were sending pizzas to the homes of these legislators that were outside of the state. So this is like, imagine your children, your husband are getting pizza deliveries um, in the name of the person who killed the Minnesota legislators. So that I understand that there was a lot of personal weight on so many of these people. And what they did succeed at is making it a national story. So by
Yeah.
leaving, they made it a national story. And I love what Nicole Collier did because a lot of times, and like I said before, it's not going to be the person you think it is that steps up.
Mm.
Sometimes it's people you've never heard of before, and they
Yeah,
just rise to the moment because
yeah,
they
yeah.
understand the history and they understand protest and I don't know. They just like the ancestors are like, listen, like this is your moment, right? So just think about this. You go to work. They're like, you can't leave. We're not going to let you leave unless we give you a personal police officer. That personal police officer is going to follow you out to the grocery store to pick up your kids, home, back to work to make sure you come back. And here's a permission slip that you have to sign so that you get your babysitter, basically, police babysitter. And she was like, I ain't signing that. I'm a grown ass woman. You know what I mean? And I just feel like, I mean, I was sort of like, why did any Democrats sign it? But I think everybody was in a different situation. Like I spoke to a legislator who is a caregiver for his 86-year-old grandmother.
Mm.
So he can't not sign the permission slip because
Yeah,
he's going to take it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there are a lot of people that are in different situations. So I think sometimes it's like easy to judge from afar and be like,
yeah.
they should have all not signed it. They should all get arrested and go to jail when you're not realizing that like that person does have to pick their kid up from second grade later.
Mhm.
So in some ways, I have a deep empathy for the Texas legislators who did put themselves out there and
Yeah.
make this a national story. But I love Nicole Collier because again, she represents the type of person that we are going to need to
Mhm.
stand up against things that are not fair. It's not just about complaining about how the thing isn't fair. Sometimes you got to show just how unjust something is.
Mhm.
And I think she did that by
Yeah.
basically getting locked in. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, and she sued right away, which I'm glad she did too, because
Mhm.
can you imagine if your boss locked you in your
Yeah,
office and
yeah.
was like, you can't leave unless
Yeah.
this person follows you around? Are you kidding me right now? I mean, it's like, and this is why I'm saying we're not in the same moment that like the
Yeah.
normal rules don't apply.
Yeah.
This is like we're in crazy town,
Mhm.
in terms of the tactics that not just the Trump administration, because nothing that happened in Texas is really the Trump administration. Like I know the media is like, well, Trump wanted these maps.
Right.
This is Republicans broadly speaking. Trump is not sitting in the room with the whiteboard being like, we should change
Mhm.
the maps. Like somebody told him that this was a good idea because it would help him hold the House. And so he
Yeah.
repeated that in front of the microphone. So now
Mhm.
we're all framing this as like Trump's brainchild when he's not sitting there thinking about, what district lines should be where on the map for
Yeah.
Texas. Like he's not doing that. This is
Right.
so it's a Republican thing that goes beyond just what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm really heartened when I think those acts not only are important in, in themselves, but they're also then sort of modeling for all of us, really, right? Like civil disobedience,
That's right.
right? Like I think a lot of us are like, well, I have to do something. I have to figure out a new idea, a new way to approach this, a new program in my community. And sometimes it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. Right. And that's exactly, what she's saying. I think we're seeing these incredible, sort of communities stand up to ICE. I think there was a video in DC from a couple of days ago of just
Yeah.
people really being able to sort of shame them away from kidnapping people and sort of kidnapping their neighbors. And so sometimes it's not even, sort of like the big thing you're going to start, but just what you're not going to go along with. And the more people do that, then that's what creates actual change. What gives you like hope? Like, what are you like?
Mhm.
Do you think what's like? Do you think we're doomed?
Okay, doomed feels strong. I think that it's going to take longer than people think to
Yeah,
repair the damage that's already been done.
yeah.
And I'm hopeful that people wake up to that fact so that they don't allow more damage to be done,
Mm,
if that makes sense, right? Because
mhm,
some of the things that they have done are going to take decades to fix.
mm,
Also, the thing that is really hard for me is the federal layoffs, the ending of DEI,
mhm,
going back to the affirmative action decision at the Supreme Court. I mean, undoing so much progress from the civil rights movement and the civil rights era is something that makes me upset, but I also am hopeful because we're so much better at communicating now. And so
yeah,
you can remove the book, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to access the information,
mhm,
right? Maybe not the masses in their second grade class,
mhm,
but I mean, the other day when he was like, oh, the Smithsonian is teaching too much stuff about how slavery is bad and, that makes people upset. And I was like, oh, they think that if they took the teaching of slavery out of the museum, we're not going to learn it.
yeah.
They
We're not
think
gonna
they
know.
think that if you think it, I think it's actually kind of funny. You think that if you take books about American history off the shelves, I can't call my aunt.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I think that they misunderstand that Black people and brown people, Indigenous people, a lot of us have family members that lived through this stuff. I don't have to read about Selma. I can call my aunt who marched
Yeah.
in Selma when she was 17. I don't have to read the book. I can just call my you know what I mean? Like I think that the and we have to continue to talk to our family members almost like an interview style and learn all that history so that we can pass it down to the next generation because of the fact that there is an assault and banning of books that have this important information that would help us understand the present moment and the
Mhm.
past moment so we don't repeat it in the future. So what gives me hope is the fact that they're trying so hard
Yeah.
to erase history and they still won't be entirely successful. They will be successful in a lot of ways, but they can't stop me from talking to my aunt and learning about what really happened here in the United States of America in the 1960s, right? This is not a long time ago. The
They're
history
literally,
the
yeah.
history is too recent for you to be like, everybody forget. Like it just
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah, and also everybody knows.
Yeah.
Like as a international, like
Right. Yeah.
people know, like people know
Yeah.
outside of the United States, and like it's a very well known like fact. And a lot of people have sort of compared the way that Germany talks about the Holocaust, remembers the Holocaust, and the difference between how there's no statues in the name of generals and Nazis, right? There's no street names that are named after them. There's a very just collective. I mean, I don't need to explain it. It's like how we all feel about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
People who are obviously sane and on the right side of history know that. And same thing for slavery. Like, sorry, like the cat's out of the bag. Like we already know. Like
Cat's out of the
everybody
bag.
knows.
Like,
So if you want to be in denial, like that's, I guess, your prerogative, but like you can't erase it from the world and its place in world history, unfortunately for them. And yeah, to your point, it was so not long ago. Like there are people who lived through it who are still alive, and thank God for those people and for the movies and the books and just the literature that exists around it. And hopefully we can preserve as much as possible from it. But yeah, it's very funny. It's not funny. It's very strange to me. I will say. I think Baldwin talked about just this sort of American. It's very American, right? It's sort of
mhm.
this idea. It's Trump embodies that kind of uh POV and that sort of invulnerable
Yeah.
masculinity, right? Like I'm perfect. No, everything's great, and I don't, I don't have COVID. I don't have any problems, and it's sort of just you just seem weak, right? It doesn't make you look strong to not know what your weaknesses are, right? And to
Yeah.
not acknowledge
Trump is
reality.
a mirror.
Yeah,
I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like, and I've thought a lot about this in the last 10 years.
yeah,
He is a mirror of America.
yeah,
And so if you don't like what you're looking at, then we have to do some self reflection on who
yeah.
we are as a country.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, and it's not all of us. I think most of like most of the
Yeah,
people probably watching this right now are not like that, but we
yeah,
know someone like that,
yeah.
or we are related to someone who's like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he attracts so many people, because I think the sort of performance that he puts on, which is what it is,
Yeah,
right? He is play acting and performing the role of president. The performance that he puts on, it's captivating to certain people who want to believe in
mm-hmm.
that mirror, in that
Yeah,
image, in that character that he's playing, which is, in my opinion, he's playing the character of a successful businessman.
yeah,
When and I think at the end of the day too, a lot of people are playing this type of character.
yeah.
There's very few people who are, inventing amazing things that are helping humanity. But there are a lot of rich people out here who are not doing things like that. And they just have
Yeah.
tons of money. And we're like, oh my God, that guy must be so brilliant. And then you meet them and you're like, actually, I don't feel like he's that brilliant. I don't understand why he have so much money. I don't understand. I'm like, cause so I just think that like we put him on a pedestal because he has a lot of money, and we assume that he's very intelligent because of that. And
Mhm.
I hope that the last 10 years have taught us that just because somebody has more money does not mean that they are smarter or better or more intelligent or more capable than somebody who has less money. And that's sort of the lie that not just America, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Americans in particular, we
Yeah.
tell each other and ourselves.
Yeah, and it's a very, what you're saying, it's a very appealing message for someone who is struggling, for someone who doesn't feel powerful in their lives, right? Who is not who doesn't feel like they're in a position of power, and that they want to be that guy, right? That
Mhm.
gets that kind of attention, or is sort of high status in that way. And I think in many ways that's how I know I've thought a lot about masculinity, right? And sort of what he's offering for that too. And the podcast bros and sort of that whole manosphere, like it's hard to compete with that message, because that message is nothing about you is wrong. Everything you do is right. You're the best. Anything that's not going your way, we're just going to go back to the way it was when people were subordinate to you by law, and people were oppressed and in much more sort of deliberate ways than they are now. And it's all, it's very magical sort of thinking, right? And it's all rooted in, I mean, I don't have to tell you, everyone knows, like, Trump is, we call him a strong man. He sort of embodies that character and that sort of but it's a parody. I mean, it's just he has he's so scared, like he's so, yeah, like, has such thin skin. And so in many ways, it's just, I think, yeah, it feels very upside down world. I think for half of us to see him and be like, oh my God, he's like so insecure. And for the other half to be like, wow, like I want to be like that, as confident as him. And it's, yeah, it's very mind bending. Um, well, this was really fun. What can you leave us with? Like, what's
Um,
hopeful, what's giving you hope? Like, what's the last thing that gave you hope, actually?
I think about this often because I try to be positive on my
Yeah,
morning show because it's like the first thing people listen to.
right.
Um, I'm glad I'm here where I
Mhm.
am, and I say that because the world is bigger than the United States of America. And I know
Mhm.
that sounds like a really simple thing to say,
Yeah.
but being here allows me to be a little bit removed and yet cover it with clarity.
Mm.
And then also understand that the world is a vast place. Like the
Mm.
idea that, and sometimes when you're in the US and the energy there, because when I've gone, before I got the visa to move, I was there, for 3 months in between two trips. And the energy is different because people are
Yeah.
so stressed out. They're so stressed out. And so when I come here, I'm like, like, and it's not that people aren't working hard here. They have the same like responsibilities and bills, and they're stressed about some of the same things. But
Mhm.
I think the mindset here has taught me a lot about how to stay present, how to separate work and not work. And I think what keeps me hopeful is the idea that I can learn from people who are living
Yeah.
outside of the US because the world is
Mhm.
vast and the
Yeah.
world will continue on.
Yeah.
I mean, America is in a bad place, okay, right now. Like, they're in a bad place.
Let's be honest.
They're in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bad situation, but the world will continue on.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when I talk to people here, they're like, we know that what happens in America will affect us, but it's not consuming our day, right? Thinking about like American politics. They're not thinking about it. They know it will affect them,
Mhm.
but they're like, that's not even top 10 of their concerns most
Right.
days.
Right.
And that keeps me hopeful because I know that
Yes.
that type of person exists, and I would like to be like that.
We can be that kind of person that
Yeah.
thinks about has other problems than the president, and his minions, and just, yeah, all the evil rich guys around him. Thank you so much, Selena. I feel like we were in Italy with you. I'm not gonna lie. I
Oh,
feel like
thank
this was
you.
like a little vacation where you're like hanging out with like the smartest friend and you're learning a lot. That your perspectives were so interesting and grounding. And thank you for all of your amazing questions, everybody.
Yes, thank you for your question.
We love it. And let's all manifest. Let's all manifest.
Yes.
I do think about manifestation on a government level. I don't know, like, I don't know if there's
Can we
a book
all
about
just
that.
like visualize a functioning democracy and then like
Right.
it'll happen.
It'll happen.
We'll have to sit in that energy. And then you sort of have to feel the feelings of excitement of like us electing a competent leader that wants a democracy and a Congress that's bipartisan, working together to like solve our problems. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll all start meditating and thinking about that.
Okay, I want to do
We'll
that because
see.
that's a funner. Because one of the things with manifestation is like the 3D, and you differentiate between the 3D and your like what's going on in your head is more important than what's going on in the 3D. So I feel like if you give yourself a little mental vacation, even if it doesn't, and it'll manifest, it'll work if we all do it. But even just imagining that in your head, it's kind of just makes you more at peace.
I agree.
And so, yeah, just pretend like it's 2013, okay? Just like visualize. There was no endless scroll. There was no Snapchat. There was no,
I know.
my God, so many things. Elon Musk was like a good guy, like just a scientist guy. But yeah, thank you so much, Zerlina. We'll have to do this again. And everyone go follow Zerlina's Substack. It's very important. She has, as you can tell, incredible contributions to make to the world right now, and always, but especially now. And your show is on Sirius every
Yes.
morning?
Yes,
Uh,
every morning, 7 a.m. Eastern on channel 127.
Great. Well, if I do listen to the news, if I go back to that, I'm going to be listening only to you. That'll
Thank
be
you.
my re-entry point. So, okay. And then is there anything else you want to plug, anything else you want to send
I
people
am
to
I'm
do?
I'm gonna start writing. I don't know exactly when I'm gonna write my first column, but I'm gonna start writing for the Contrarian here on Substack. So I have
Oh,
my Substack, the Inner Work Dispatch, and then I'm gonna contribute to the Contrarian here on Substack, and I'm excited about that because I haven't written about politics in a really long time. My Substack is not about politics. I try very hard to, like, if I talk about Trump, to say his name only once in a post. It's not. It's about mental health and the inner journey, and so I did have a lot more to say about politics. So I'm going to start writing columns about it again.
well, great. We can't wait to read it. Thank you, Zerlina. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your margarita.
Yes. I'm going to go
Because
have
yeah,
it
it's
now.
like 11 for you. Yeah, it's like time to party. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.